Hi guys, Harry Otis here, professional trader for 20 years. Started my career in 2005 and still alive in 2026. Okay, so let's begin. The week of here, Monday, March 23rd, 2026. A new week starts in March. Of course, we're looking at a chart of the S&P 500. And the big news of the day is negotiations begin. The art of the deal, I guess, if you're a Trump fan. Trump wants to make peace, and Iran is sort of with it. I don't know. We'll get to that soon, okay? But first, we always talk about the technicals, okay? On Friday, we closed below the key 655 level here, and we had to turn technically bearish, but but that's just the technicals, and it's just one day, and we were also saying that we were at a very, very extreme oversold conditions and very, very extreme in sentiment, so it might not last. We could get a bounce. So today we got that bounce because over the weekend Trump and is willing to talk. Okay, so the technicals here looks like it could be a bear trap. We are back into neutral, back into this zone. Okay, we didn't really break down yet. And it's very, very preliminary, this negotiations thing. But so far, the technicals are back into neutral from bearish. Yes, they are short-term bearish. But look, it's still within this choppy big zone here for 6 months now almost, since October. Okay, so it's probably a sideways choppy zone, avoiding defeat, avoiding bear market territory, okay, technically speaking. So back to neutral, technically speaking. And do you think this move up in SPY did anything for sentiment? Well, no. We're still at extreme fear. I think we went from 15 to 16. It barely moved, okay? Everything is at extreme fear still, including options. Every sub-indices, momentum, strength, breadth, whatever. So we have a long way to go if this is indeed a peace deal that's working, okay? So, but the market doesn't believe it yet. It sort of believes it. It's above key levels, but not enough of a big move. It's just up 1%. Doesn't really say much, and we can still barely have it qualifies as an oversold bounce. It's not really back to bullishness type yet. We could even go up to 673 before rolling over. It's possible if things go bad, but it all depends on negotiations with Iran. So let's get to the big main event, okay? The narrative for today is Trump tells CNBC we are very intent on making a deal with Iran, okay? So you're going to get these headlines in the morning. That's what happened, and it pumped up the prices, okay? However, Trump is still talking tough. He goes, Trump warns U.S. will just keep bombing if Iran talks fail, says the Hormuz to be jointly controlled. I think he wants the Straits of Hormuz to be jointly controlled with Iran. He doesn't want to give them fully to Iran, but it also concedes the fact that Iran is in control of the Straits of Hormuz. So, but immediately after, Iran comes back and says, Iran says no talks with U.S. after Trump threatens to just keep bombing us if efforts fail. Wants Hormuz to be jointly controlled. Okay, so it's a back and forth game of ping pong. Okay, both sides want to seem tough. Okay, for negotiation purposes. But here, look, wants the Straits of Hormuz to be jointly controlled, and in the U.S., Trump says Hormuz to be jointly controlled. At least they're agreeing on something. Okay, so this is just back and forth. I mean, negotiation tactics. The fact that we have opened up negotiations is very, very positive to me. Okay, I think this is if it dips below, I think we buy the dip, because as negotiations begin, I think it could be the beginning to the end of this war. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we know that Trump wants to get out of this war for sure. It's such a terrible move, and of course, Iran too, believe it or not, wants to get out of this war, because what are they going to do? They're going to just throw missiles at Israel forever and bases along, on the GCCs forever. I mean, they're going to put ground troops there? No, they're not going to put ground troops. So Iran is and they've depleted a significant portion of their missile stockpile. We don't know how much, but it took them, 20 to 40 years to build this stockpile, and they got rid of X amount, let's say 30%, 33% in 2 weeks. It's not a winning strategy to just keep lobbing missiles and then not occupying the country that you're destroying, because, you're just going to keep destroying Israel with missiles, but then they're going to build it up when you run out of missiles. You need to put boots on the ground. in Israel if you're going to quote unquote win the war. So, and Iran is not going to do that. So they both want out, but they want out in favorable circumstances. Okay, Iran wants to make sure they don't get attacked again, and the U.S. Trump wants to save face. He wants to leave with this, with not his tail. He doesn't want to leave in a situation of weakness, or like it looks like he's running with his tail between his legs. He wants to claim victory in some sense. And the Iranians also want to seem strong. Okay, so you keep having like stories back and forth. U.S. Marines are still slated to arrive in the Middle East. Okay, Netanyahu is concerned about the possibility of America reaching a bad deal. Okay, Netanyahu still wants the war to continue. We know that for sure. Okay, so just finding any way to like keep it up there. But Iran's supreme leader's military advisor, Rezaieh, I don't know how to pronounce that, damages to the Iran must also be compensated. You see, now negotiations are starting. It's just that's how it is. Okay, you're going to still be some kind of fighting because you don't have to have a ceasefire while negotiations are on, but that's very, very good. It's the beginning of negotiations, and everybody's just going to talk tough. I'm going to kill you here if you don't do this. I'm going to get you here if you don't do this. And they're going to say eventually, oh, we made a deal. Okay. So what does this do for assets like we usually follow for the war? It's U.S. oil. We were talking. Okay, U.S. oil. Boom. Okay. We were talking here that they're consolidating after maximum fear. So we could either go up as a high tide flag or go down. And I suspect that we go down because we're at an extremely fearful territory where a big move has already happened. And yes, today, because peace talks commenced, this is a huge bearish engulfing candle. It could continue. If negotiations continue, this will continue to drift lower, okay? The moving averages, we finally closed below the 10. And look, it went as low as $84, which kissed the 20 moving average, but didn't fall behind it, okay? So it's respecting averages, okay? So below the 10, a lot of people probably got out of their oil trade if they bought at the breakout. So good for them. They made good money. But right now, I believe since we are in the beginning of the end and negotiations have started, that it is a slow drift down. And the counterpart to this is gold and precious metals. We're taking a hit. Look at this overnight move in gold. Okay, we were at overnight because this happened. Can you see this wick, guys? This wick. It went all the way down to almost 4,000, 4,100. And that happened if you look at the 15-minute chart. Okay, this move was a significant move. It all happened basically at 2 a.m. and then it went down. That's like the European Open, the London Open. So the people were still selling, the Europeans were still selling gold, okay, to raise cash. Okay, either a client of the European, maybe a GCC state, whatever. But they were selling gold to raise cash, and then boom, back rip in the face after Trump's comments. Okay, so which was this candle right here. So still not out of the woods. Gold is coming back. This is a huge move. Like if we go to the daily again, this could be like a exhaustion low after negotiations are happening. So the GCCs might not have to sell gold anymore if their oil is allowed to pass the Straits of Hormuz, and they could raise dollars again. So this could be the exhaustion low in the gold price going forward. I don't know. We just speculating. Given the facts that the negotiations have begun, I think we're at a point where U.S. oil continues to drift lower, probably sell any rip. When it was here around, I tried to sell a call spread, longer dated one, for a stupid price. In fact, I almost got close to getting hit, okay, on a stupid call spread. It would have printed today. But the point is, it doesn't matter. Okay, you have other things to do. We have our gold positions that we bought, and etc. So I just suspect that the oil continues to go down. Gold might have had this exhaustion move lower before going back up. Doesn't mean it's going to go to new highs. It could just consolidate here before ripping in 2, 3, 4 months time. We don't know. This is a very good consolidation after a big move. Okay, it literally almost touched the 200. I wish I was still trading. If this was during the U.S. hours, I would be buying the 200 hand over fist. Okay, it's a great entry point after a huge bull market where nothing really has changed, and this war looks to be coming to an end. So that's it, guys. I suspect, because negotiations have begun, that this could be a bear trap. We can continue to go higher, okay? Especially when you have sentiment really at extreme fear still. Okay, because today's 1% move didn't move this one bit, maybe from 15 to 16. We have a long way to go before greed and, and everything goes, okay? And the narrative is we are very intent on making a deal, Trump, okay? But you're going to have this back and forth between saber rattling. If you don't do this in the deal, we're going to keep bombing you, etc. It's going to be like that. The only bad thing that I see going forward is if negotiations break down and Iran says, screw it, we keep bombing you. Okay, we don't want to negotiate. But that could be a negotiating tactic. You don't know. So I just think that both sides, it behooves both sides to end this war fairly quickly because nobody's winning, not even Iran. They're suffering damages too. Okay, don't look at Twitter and everything that says Iran is destroying everything. They're both taking big hits. Okay, and they want this war to end. So that's it, guys. Let's see what happens going forward and for the rest of the week. Are negotiations going to get better or not? Let's see. Later.